So I'm here with recording artist Michael Wavves. How you doing today?
What's good? I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Man, I'm excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you.
No,
Um,
of course.
man, you are a really incredible artist. Like I guess you're from Lebanon, Pennsylvania. It's not exactly like a music hub. What's it like, being from Lebanon? What's the music
I
scene?
appreciate that, man. Yeah, thank you for the kind words, by the way. That means a lot. Yeah, so it's actually I'm not gonna be I don't mean this as like a jackass. I just mean it as being from there. So it's pronounced Lebanon,
Okay.
which
Lebanon.
is yeah, Lebanon. There you go. But obviously there's like the country Lebanon, so everybody always mispronounces it. But that's like a thing for people from Lebanon. Like you're not from Lebanon when somebody says, "Oh, you're from like Lebanon." It's like, nah. But no, I didn't mean that like a dig or anything like that.
No,
But
no, it's all good.
uh
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm from Lebanon, Pennsylvania, which is like it's about 25 minutes, half an hour from where I live now, in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. But music hub wise, man, it's definitely like you said, not that at all. It's definitely not any type of hotbed for, you know, uh success in the music industry and entertainment and things like that. Which is I kind of like that. I've been going after this music thing and chasing my dreams with this for 8, 9, 10 years at this point. And I definitely went through the stages of like, oh, do I need to move to New York or Nashville or LA? But with the internet now, man, it's like you can be from Lebanon, Pennsylvania, or you can be from Bumblefuck. Where can I curse? By the way, I didn't want
Yeah,
to.
yeah, of
Okay,
course.
cool. Yeah, or you could be from like Bumblefuck, Idaho, and it doesn't matter because the internet, brings people together. But it's definitely, it's like I think a lot of small town America places where, at least in terms of like the music scene, like everybody kind of knows everybody in your local scene, and it's very easy to get caught up in like local stuff. And I've like prided myself in trying to distance myself from getting involved in like, no one cares about like Lebanon, PA musician, ranking. It's like I'm just out here trying to make a sustainable career and build a fan base regionally and nationally to be able to tour and just get to the masses, not being stuck in the bubble of your hometown, appreciating it, um, but trying to shoot way bigger than that.
No, I totally understand that. And you've been making music, like you said, for the last 8, 9 years since
Yeah,
2015. And I guess you used to be a social studies teacher. Like
I
how did
still I still am.
yeah, yeah. So how did do you balance like pursuing a career in
Mm.
music and teaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a challenge every day. Um, you know, I love like my passion and my dream is to be a full-time musician, and I truly think I'm well on my way to making that a reality. But as of right now, just being as transparent as possible, like I still am a social studies teacher. I'm an eighth grade social studies teacher, actually in Lebanon, my hometown, at the city's middle school. Um, and I have to do that right now to continue to make ends meet. I make money off music, just not enough to live full time comfortably right now. But yeah, dude, that balance, man, that's like it's a daily battle, man. It's interesting because and I've told people about this before, like friends of mine and like other musician friends and other interviews and stuff. It can be very difficult because it's like a real big like roller coaster where, like just because I have a 9 to 5 job doesn't mean I like let off the gas any with my music industry. I go full speed ahead with that. So there's times where like I'm on Thanksgiving break or I have a long weekend and I'm playing shows. I'm trying to build my fan base, or I'm filming content, or I'm shooting music videos, or doing a lot of the things that are required in today's independent music grind. Having constant content coming out and constantly recording and finding your sound and playing shows and building your fan base. And I've definitely went through a lot of those ups and downs where like you know like I'll play shows on like a weekend, and it's an interesting experience where like you'll meet fans that have been listening for a couple of years and they talk about like real deep stories about how your music has affected them in a positive way to help them get through something, or something that like things that I'm extremely lucky that anybody listens. But to have people listen and be affected in a positive way, it just means the world. And you have that on like a Saturday night, and then all of a sudden I'm driving to work on a Monday. Like, what the fuck is good? So it's a real like you have those really high peak moments, and then you have those really kind of crash back to reality moments. So it is a tough challenge where you're dealing with those ups and downs, and they kind of seem to be kind of they're extremes. Like I said, you can go to a show and like sign an autograph and talk to somebody about how your music has helped them, but then at the same time, I can drive to work on a Monday and have eighth grade kids, talk shit or something like that. It's a weird like dichotomy. I keep saying it's a roller coaster, but it really is, and it is hard um to kind of balance those highs and lows, just like anything, in life. But it is a challenge. Like, I'd be lying if I said it was like, oh no, it's all good. Like, there's some extended periods of time where things are great. But it is tough to balance that, the workload of being a teacher. Like, my heart is with all public school teachers out there, because it is, obviously I'm biased being one, but it's a very difficult profession, and you got to give a lot of yourself all the time, and it's very exhausting, and dealing with that. And then on top of that, also, uh, going full speed ahead with my music career pursuits. It is exhausting, and it is a balancing act, but I've at moments it is easy to get down on yourself about that, just like any type of pursuit, where it's like sometimes you feel like you're running into a wall repeatedly, or you don't feel like you're making leaps and bounds of progress right away. I mean, that's kind of like the American, I feel like, sickness, where it's like you look at social media and you want results right away. And it is tough over time when you're really working hard, and it's like, man, I can't believe, this hasn't happened yet, or you have expectations that weren't met. And then also having that kind of 9 to 5 job just kind of is icing on the cake of sometimes feeling pretty down. But yeah, all in all, sorry I'm ranting, but it's a balancing act for sure. Sometimes it can be very difficult, but
No, like I could totally see that. Like, I think like, like for a lot of artists, like, like working a job, like, and having to provide for yourself because like, money isn't like, coming in like they would like it with the music, like, could be
right.
pretty tough. Like what, you know, a lot of people compare your music to Juice World. I think like,
Mm.
that's pretty interesting. What do you think about that comparison?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. I'll be honest, like, I'm not like a massive Juice World fan. I don't like not like Juice World. I just have never really. I mean, I'm 33, so it's like that was kind of a little bit after my like. I think he was popping a little bit after. Like, I was a little old for that kind of stuff. I mean, maybe I'm dating myself. I don't know, but I was more of like you know, I discovered Drake in like 2008 when Kid Cudi first came out, Mac Miller, and then it was like, the 808s and Heartbreaks Kanye era. Like, that was the kind of the era where I really got into music, and the Juice World stuff came like later. But I mean, I've listened to like some Juice World songs, and like I'm familiar, and I like the comparison because I think, regardless of like the sonics of it, um, I respect the fact, and I connect with the fact that Juice World has always made music that like is very like painfully authentic. Um, talking about emotions that everybody goes through, and situations that everybody feels, um, like an unapologetically authentic and open way. Just kind of putting that pain out on the stage, and out on display for everybody to hear. And I think that's what the most powerful music does, is when you talk about, even if it's embarrassing, or even if it's like insanely vulnerable or uncomfortable or painful to talk about those types of things. I think it's important to talk about those things, because there's millions of people around the world that have felt those same types of things and connect with those things. And if it wasn't for, artists like a Juice World, and, there's plenty of other artists like Kid Cudi, or, a Drake, or, whoever you listen to, whatever genre or style, you're going to find artists. I really do believe the most powerful music is the most honest and authentic and raw. So I love that comparison, because I think that's what he does.
Most
or
definitely.
did.
And, listening to your music, I really liked it because like I feel like it's very relatable. As a lot of
Mm,
like content and stuff. I
thank
think
you.
like, like anybody can relate to, and like songs like Too Much Internet. You talk about like
Yeah.
that song and like the purpose behind it.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate that, man. It's yeah, I mean, that song was, it's a struggle daily. It's, for everybody where it's like you're doom scrolling on your phone, and before you know it, 2 hours went by and you're like, "What the fuck am I doing with my evening?" Like I just sat on the couch and scrolled like fucking cat videos or whatever the hell my algorithm is feeding me. Um, and it is like, dude, the psychology and the science behind it, like, it is a problem. It's when you're sitting there, especially, if you have kids or you have like pursuits you're trying to go after or whatever, like that addiction to your cell phone, like it's not natural, obviously. But it is something I think a lot of us go through. And, when I wrote that song, like it was just from a place of literally telling myself, like, I spent too much time on the internet, like it literally was me telling myself, like, get off your fucking phone. And I think, like I said, a lot of people can relate to that. And that's like been the feedback of that song has been really cool because it's just been like, yo, like this is my anthem for like I know I spent too much time on my phone and the internet also like and there's like lyrics in the song and the verses that talk just about like you know comparison and how comparison really I mean I hate to use like the generic phrase but like comparison is the thief of joy but it really is it's like the internet is a place where it's a highlight reel of everybody's life and you're out here living your daily life and sometimes it's monotonous as hell sometimes it's stressful as hell sometimes it's boring as hell and it's so easy to just like get on your phone and scroll through and you're like oh man, so and so is in Hawaii, or so and so just announced this big tour, or so and so just launched their business, or so and so is really muscular and fit. And before you know it, it's like all you're doing is like telling yourself like you're not good enough in like so many different ways. So it's a dangerous thing, but it's like I said, it's something we all do, including myself. Obviously, that was the source of that song. But it's yeah, like you said, it's back to that relatability piece. It's I just want to make shit that people listen to and it's like, damn, I felt that too. And hopefully it can go that extra step and help them, through something and feel like they're not alone.
Yeah, I think like, a big theme in your music is like, self-worth and
Mm.
not feeling good enough. Like, do you feel like, particularly in today's day and age, like you talk about like, social media and like comparison, everybody's like always comparing. But like I talk to some really successful people and like they tell me like, sometimes and stuff they don't feel good enough, or like, there were times and stuff where they didn't feel like they were good enough. Has that been an issue that you've dealt with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you feel that every day, and again, I think it's something a lot of people go through, but definitely personally myself for sure. It's uh, when you're trying to go after something unorthodox and even like I said like 8 9 years in this like I have plenty of friends that are way more successful than I am and that is a difficult thing to look at whether it's music or whether it's starting a coffee shop or whether it's launching an apparel brand or a podcast or whatever there's always somebody that's going to be doing better than you based on your perspective and that feeling not good enough thing, it definitely is, and social media doesn't make that any better. It just accentuates that. Um, but it's definitely something, I felt for sure, and you could really dive into kind of the Dr. Phil psychology of it. And it's, that a lot of that stuff goes back to when we were kids and there's different emotions that, kind of manifest themselves in issues later. With that kind of stuff. And now, and I'm not sure how old you are, but it's I know for me, being 33, I didn't grow up with the internet.
Right.
Like Facebook and MySpace and, even earlier, like Zanga and different shit like that became a thing like late middle school into high school. And I went through my kind of childhood years not having to worry about how I looked on Instagram or not having to worry about, oh, yeah, I got 10,000 views on my TikTok or, any of that kind of bullshit. And especially as a teacher, I see that shit all the time. And
Right.
it is very damaging, and I have a younger sister, she's 17 and she'd probably never admit it, but I'm sure, she goes through those types of things. It's an extra set of pressures already with being a kid, which is, kids and teenage like that's a tough time. You go through a lot of shit and you got to try to figure shit out. And, And a lot of times you feel like you're not figuring it out, and which is normal, but at that time you don't know any better, you know. So I think, kind of wrapping back around to answering your question more, it's definitely something I felt for sure. Um, I think I try to be as open as possible because, and if my dad watches this, this will be funny. But like, I'm from a family that's not really super open with their emotions and overly expressive with how they feel and vulnerability and stuff like that. So I almost try to go above and beyond, especially in my music, to be like, yo, I have a song called Deeper. It's one of my favorite songs I put out. And I think if I remember the lyrics right, but like I literally said in the verse, like, I don't love myself. Like I literally said that, which, especially when I wrote that, it's like, damn, that's some heavy shit. And it's like, I'm putting that out into the public for whoever to listen to. Um, and that's something I would never really say that to even my closest friends, or, stuff like that. But in a song, it does provide kind of a safe space, because I know some people are going to hear that and say, fuck, I felt that too. And this is helping me, maybe, like, again, feel a little less alone. Maybe it's going to bring me a little bit out of this dark space that I've been in. Because dude, all the shit that we feel, it's like we look around and see people even on social media, they're all feeling the same shit. And it's even the most successful artists in the world, or successful business people, or influencers, or podcasters, everybody still feels the feeling like they're not good enough sometimes. And usually it's a lot of the time, because you're your toughest critic, especially if you're somebody driven.
100%, man. Like, thank you so much for your vulnerability. Like, I think, like, it's really refreshing to hear somebody, like, so in touch with their emotions. Like, we live, like, sometimes I feel like men get shamed though for like sharing
Yeah.
their feelings. Like, you're just supposed to be like this this tough guy, like,
Yeah.
nothing bothers you ever. Like, how do you balance that? Like, I mean, as far as
Mm.
like in like, today's society, about like, sharing and like, being open and vulnerable in your music?
That's an amazing question. I'm so glad you asked that. Ironically enough, I think just in therapy yesterday, I was talking about this exact topic. But I think, like our parents' generation and things, and I don't want to have like a generational war conversation, but over time, there's definitely been, more of an awareness of your emotions, and the fact that it's completely normal, no matter if you're a guy or a girl or whatever, that you go through painful shit. Even if you have the best upbringing ever, there's going to be moments of trauma, and people, your parents are going to make mistakes and not be perfect. And like I said, even as good as your childhood, you could have like the best childhood in the world, but there's still trauma and pain throughout, where later on in life, that causes issues in relationships, or self-love or self-worth, or just your mental health in general. And it definitely is challenging, because at least I know I was raised in a household where you're a pussy if you like are open and vulnerable with your emotions, or you're soft, or whatever, you need to have thicker skin. um, and I think for a long time, at least for me, I definitely struggle with like feeling like, why, am I soft, or, am I too sensitive about certain things? And I think as you get older, and like I said, dude, I'm 33, so at least, I don't consider myself like an old man, but I consider myself fairly seasoned for like a young person. And, it's, you go through a lot of experiences, I think, in your mid to late 20s and into your early 30s, and I'm sure even after, where you become more comfortable with yourself, and you really start to discover who you are. You're not I think as life goes on, you hopefully, if you have this mindset, and awareness, like self-awareness, I think you start becoming, you stop imitating other people, or doing shit that you think is cool, or kind of like minimizing aspects of yourself to fit in, or judging yourself so heavily because maybe you think a certain way, or like a certain style, or feel a certain way about something, and you might not think that is something that's like cool or accepted or normal. And again, I still struggle with this on a day-to-day basis. I don't think it really ever ends. Honestly, I think that's kind of the human experience, is figuring the healthiest way to kind of deal with that as life moves on. But as a man, not saying it's any more difficult than a woman. I have no idea, because I'm not a woman, but it's, there is an aspect, I think, that is difficult, and I still think is a little bit behind the times of, men have to bottle things up, and men have to, package and push down and compartmentalize and not be expressive about, things that they're feeling or pain or experiences or even joy and happiness. Um, and I do think, that suppressing those things just creates mental health issues over time where, you don't feel as though you can be yourself. And it's just not a healthy thing, regardless of the spot you're in life or, what you're trying to do. It's like you can't heal from those types of things, not to be super heavy, but it's like I really don't think you can heal from those types of things if you just kind of bottled it up or never express those emotions and things like that. So I try to be as open as possible, even if it's super uncomfortable, because I know just logically based on just like not that I'm in any way educated. Actually I did minor in psychology in college,
Nice.
but and my wife majored in it, so we have a lot of good conversations about it. But it's you don't ever heal from those issues, and I know logically that the more you're open and share it, even if it's super uncomfortable, it's going to help you heal. So I think for me, like in the music and in conversations, and even in an interview like this, or a conversation like this, being painfully open, even if it's uncomfortable, always feels better down the road, and it's always better for your mental health and where you're at in terms of like accepting feelings that you're having, and it just helps you heal. So I think even though it's uncomfortable in the moment, over time, it's super healthy and helpful.
You've released a lot of music like over the years, different EPs. Do you have any plans in the future to do an LP?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working on it right now. I'm glad you asked. Yeah, so kind of in short, I kind of started out in the rap space, just kind of making rap music initially. That's just what I identified with early on. And even there is elements of rap in a lot of my more recent music, but I will say, songs like "Will It Go Away" is fairly recent. "Euphoria" is my latest release, and I can't wait. I'll shoot you a secret link to it's like a private listening link to the next song that's going to come out. It's called "Follow Your Soul." But I've been for so long trying to find my sound because I think for a long time I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to be successful. So I forced a lot of things, if that makes sense. Like I forced certain styles and I forced certain music sounds, and I was trying to sound like other artists because that was popping at the time, and catch trends. And over time, I really found that I'm like, damn, like you're not, excuse me, like you're not being yourself. There was always elements of me in my music, but I think there's I don't want to say wasted a lot of time because I didn't waste it. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. But over time, I've really helped myself understand that like I need to stop forcing things, and I need to go into the studio and say I have an idea, and wherever this ends up, whatever genre it is, whatever style it is, whatever it sounds like, this is what it is. I'm not trying to force it into like an emo rap box. I'm not trying to force it into, anything. I'm not trying to sound like a knockoff Drake, or I'm not trying to sound like Jack Harlow or MGK or Juice World or anything. I'm just trying to be myself, and whatever it sounds like is me, and that's okay because there's no other me. That's my marketing, that's my thing that sets me apart. So recently a guy I went to high school with. I just want to give him his flowers. His name's Max Getz. He's an awesome artist. He goes by the name Dead Motel. And we went to high school together, and we didn't know each other in high school. Like we knew who each other were. It was one of those situations, but we didn't actually know each other. Never said a word to each other. But we connected about a year and a half ago now, and I put up on my Instagram story. I don't know if it was during the pandemic or not, but it might have been a little bit after the pandemic. I was like, "Yo, looking for a producer in the like anybody looking to work, like I'm just looking to build," because I had the goal of trying to find my own sound and really build from the bottom up. Because I'm not sure how much you kind of know about like I guess the behind the curtain aspect of music, where like for a long time, a lot of my earlier music, I was like buying beats from producers off of the internet, off like beat packs and beat stores.
Right.
And it's really difficult to kind of curate and mold your own sound when the beat's already done, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So Max hit me up, and I think he followed me on Instagram. I didn't even realize it. And he's like, "Yo, dude, like I know we know who each other are. Like I live 15 minutes from you. Why don't you come over to my house? I have a studio in the basement." He knows how to play like the guitar, the drums. He knows how. He's way fucking more talented than me. And he's like, why don't you come over and we'll just like connect and work and see what happens. And ever since then, it's been amazing because over time we've been able to really curate this awesome sound, which I would say Euphoria, my most recent song, is kind of a taste of that, the first taste of that. And now a lot of my newer music, it's like there's really no elements of rap. I'm singing a lot. Like there is like singy rap, like it's like melodic rap, but I'm not like rapping on anything. I just don't really connect with it, just straight rapping anymore. And there's like live drums on everything. There's no really hip hop drums on anything. It's all live drums and guitars and 80s synths. It just sounds cool, man. It's like a hodgepodge of shit where we're in the studio and we create, and he like gets on the synth, and I'm just like, that's sick, keep that. Or like he'll start playing the guitar. I'm like, that's sick, we got to keep that. And then we'll just see what happens. So I'm really excited because the music that's going to be on this LP, it's going to be kind of a build. It's called Fake Sunflowers, which I've kind of like hinted at many times, like on my socials, and like kind of my core fans that have been around, they definitely like know it. And I've been using like the sunflower emoji often and stuff like that, just trying to plant the seeds, no pun intended, for the LP. So it's going to be coming out like single by single, and I would say either Will It Go Away or Euphoria is going to are the first tastes of what'll be on the album. They're going to be put out song by song, and probably the end of this year, I would think, or spring next year. I'm just going to be putting them out single by single. That's just kind of what works better on streaming and in terms of like fan discovery. Putting out an album today, it's just kind of a little bit of a, people don't have the patience to just listen through a straight body of work. So putting it out song by song is going to be what I'm doing. But yeah, so working on an LP right now, and just putting them out song by song, going to wrap up, whenever it feels right.
Yeah, I hear like a lot of artists and stuff saying they're like, putting out music like, a single at a time because like, people don't really have like the attention. It seems like like a lot of music, it just seems like, almost like where it's not appreciated as much as it was like, like before the internet. Like,
Right.
like we would like in like my era, like we'd go buy a CD like at the store. Do you kind of see
Yeah.
that, and how does that approach like the way like you make music? Like, it feels like, artists have to like, make content more than
Mm. Yeah. It sucks at points for sure. Cause like sometimes I'm like, I'm out here like on my phone. I'm like, what the fuck am I talking in my phone? Like it just doesn't feel right, making like social media videos and stuff like that. It's something that, is just sometimes feels not natural, if that makes sense. But it definitely has, like affected how um how I make music to a degree in a healthy way. I think it's good to keep in mind, but it doesn't like dictate everything I'm doing. Like I still want to go in to the studio and make something that's authentic and that's me and that's honest and that's relatable, in an honest, authentic, organic way. But it does affect, like I got to figure out, and this is kind of the step I'm on right now. It's like I'm really zeroing in on the genre of music and the style and the how just kind of my sound. I'm really zeroing in on that, which is amazing. But now it's finding out the content that works for that, and what content is naturally me, and I'm not forcing it. It's almost like an art form in itself. Is like you got to figure out the content that fits you, the style, the look, the fonts, the you know the hook at the beginning of the video that hopefully grabs people's attention. Like what are you trying to say? How can you market the song in the best way content wise? And that has been the biggest challenge for me for sure, because I haven't had any content really take yet. I've had, you have a consistent couple thousand views on videos, awesome, but like I've had nothing like really take. And that's really my goal, that for the rest of this year is really nail home that content to a point where, I'm really exposing myself to a larger audience so I can continue to build that and monetize that. But most importantly, just connect with more people and fans and help more people with the music and stuff like that, and build those relationships with people. Um, but there has been like real small ways that it has affected how I make music. I try to make like, I don't really have songs that have super long intros because I know people can listen to that and they're like, oh, that's kind of boring, So you kind of try to get into the meat of the song right away. And like I said, it's not like it dictates the art and the creation process, but I do think it's an element to healthily keep in mind as you create. But it has transformed. I mean, it's like when I first started getting into music, content was not a thing at all in the music industry. And you didn't see Drake on his phone making videos back in 2008 and 9. There was different ways. That was like the blog era where it was like you got posted on blogs, and you build a fan base that way, and stuff like that. So it's totally different. So it's a constant learning curve, which is exhausting, but you know anything that you're trying to do that's great is fucking hard to make happen. So
Most definitely. Why did you decide to go with Michael Wavves as your artist name?
Mhm.
Wavves.
Yeah, it's super fucking random. So my middle name is Michael. So my real name is Jordan. That's my whatever regular name. And my middle name is Michael. So I was like, well, when I was trying to think of an artist name, I don't know why I just didn't go with my regular name. I don't know. My regular name is okay. Like I don't think it'd be like it doesn't sound awesome or anything. But so I chose my middle name because I saw a lot of artists do that. I was like, oh, they go by their, I was like, cool, whatever. And I remember I had a summer job at so I live not far from like Hershey chocolate.
Yeah, yeah. The,
Yeah.
the amusement
So
park and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Hershey Park and everything like that. So my dad actually works at like the chocolate factory.
Okay.
And my
Oh,
dad
that's
got me a
cool.
summer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He hates it, but it is cool.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, they work him too hard there. He needs to fucking retire and enjoy life. But so he works there, so he got me like an office job in the summers. Well, I think I was still in college, I'm not sure, but and I remember, I mean, my office job was so easy. I worked with like a bunch of older people. They were sweethearts, but they didn't really know how to work computers that well. So the work that they would always give me, I could get done in like 45 minutes, but I had like an 8-hour shift. So I'm like, all right, let me get all this shit done. And then I would do a bunch of music stuff. And I remember I was trying to figure out an artist name because I used to way back in the day, I used to go just by my initials, JMB, which is like the corniest, most like white rapper thing to ever do. So I was like, yo, I'm trying to really like take this super seriously. And number one, I need a name that when people Google, they just find me right away, like
right.
something unique. So I remember, so I chose Michael, and then, dude, I was literally like, I think on like dictionary.com or something, like just like pairing words with Michael that sounded cool and that I just thought sounded like okay. And I came across Waves and I was like, Michael Waves. I was like, that kind of sounds cool. Not at the time realizing that it sounds like microwave. I had no idea at that time that Michael Waves sound like microwave. But then I added the second V to make it unique. And back then, I don't know when that was, like 2015 or 14, I don't know. So I chose that, and then I also didn't realize there's like a surf rock band called Wavves, Wavves, just Waves, from California, and I remember getting like roasted by some of their fans on Twitter for a while. They're like, "Yo, you're like the D-list Waves," and I was like, "Yo, fucking D-list, I'll take that shit." But I remember getting roasted by some of their fans, and I still get every so often. I don't know if you've ever seen like the meme. I'd have to find it, but it's like a picture of somebody making mac and cheese. It goes viral like every couple months, and it's somebody like making mac and cheese in the microwave, and it says like, "Oh, I'm trying to make mac and cheese in the microwave." And I don't know if it's like a joke about somebody being high and calling it that. I don't know, but I always get tagged in that. Like every couple months, I'll get tagged in it. So I had no idea it sounds like microwaves until people on the internet started making fun of me for it. So then I turned it into like a T-shirt that you can buy on my merch store. It's like my logo in a microwave.
Nice.
So yeah, yeah,
Man, that's incredible. Michael Waves, where can people reach out to you on social media, check out your music?
yeah, dude. So it's just, and this was also a reason I chose Michael Ways because the at name on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok, it was available. So that worked out. But yeah, so it's just at Michael Waves on everything. Just MICHAELWA, two V's, VVES, at Michael Waves. I'm on all the socials, michaelwaves.com. I have a texting number on all my social medias. You can reach out that way. And literally, it's like one automated message to lock you into my contact list. And then literally, you're texting me on my phone. So it's, if anybody watches this that wants to reach out, hit me up. I'm always here for a conversation and just to spread some positive vibes in the world, man.
Man, most definitely, man. I really appreciate connecting with you and we were able to do this. I think you're a
Yeah.
really artist. Like, I enjoyed listening to your music. Like, I was like listening to it, and then I enjoyed some of your content too. It was like the one video and stuff when you're in, I think you're in like Lancaster, and
Yeah.
like the Amish and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Your kind words really mean a lot. Thank you for reaching out. We'll have to do this again sometime.
most definitely, man. You're welcome back
Yeah.
anytime. Appreciate you.